My name is Judy Parnall. I'm from the BBC in London. I'm also here as the chair of the EBU's technical committee and as a partner in the MediaRoad project. We were involved in the conception of the MediaRoad project from the point of view of we've got some great innovation and research happening in a number of centres across Europe, and how do we actually then extend that to be able to show how that we have such a dynamic sector going forward. So we looked at why do we do it? Well, we talked about the digital disruption, there's the convergence, and often a lot of these players are vertically integrated, which quite changes the way that those of us who have been the big players in the past can actually integrate with these platforms. And we found that the traditional media research and standard setting, the way we've always worked, as was mentioned in the last panel by Dieter, it doesn't work the same way anymore. It's different. We need to innovate in different ways. We've got a huge innovation capacity across the media sector, both in technical innovation, but actually, if we look at some of those global players, they're throwing multiple factors of that towards innovation to get that key point in the market. But let's not knock or say how reduce the quality of the European media sector. We're highly creative and we're diverse, and we gain a lot of high quality and trusted content. If you look at some of the media that goes across and gets adopted throughout the world, look at something, I just looked up one just now, and I looked up Borgen, that came from the Danish broadcaster. And it's a media piece of media that has gone throughout the world. Look at Killing Eve that the BBC started, and we got some co-production money from Netflix. That again has gone across the world. Unfortunately for us outside the UK, it is being branded as a Netflix production. But actually making sure that we know from Europe, we generate really high value, popular media. Our news sources get trusted throughout the world. And these are things that it's really important that we remember that, and actually remember that we are, as a media sector, have great production values and great trust values that we can actually should be continuing to promote. But of course, because of the nature, the strength of Europe is perhaps also its weakness in that we are diverse, that we're fragmented, the strength that we represent our different cultures, that we can have some pretty small languages, but that's still thriving with the local cultures. We talked about the Flemish, Dutch here. Welsh, we have, in fact for us, we have even Scots Gaelic, which is a really small language, but is thriving through some of the media that we can do. And actually the media can really support that cultural diversity. But how do we actually make sure that the technical work, the technical innovation and the culture come together? So is this what we were looking at doing as a media ecosystem, bridging these gaps, promoting and sharing between us the technology advances? If we can work together on the technology, then we can actually build that sector. Actually, we don't always treat them, as someone said earlier, we shouldn't always treat these new key actors as the enemy. We should be working together actually to promote and with key partnerships. We should be networking together to more effectively exchange expertise. If one of us has found a way to do something, why don't we share it with others and develop a longer term joint policy vision? So this was the group that came together to form the MediaRoad project 2 years ago now. So led by the EBU, with partners from the Association Européenne de Radio, us at the BBC, CEPI, who are the independent productions for, and that actually look at a lot of the small producers. EPFL, the research lab in Lausanne. imec from here for the university. IRT and the German Public Service Media Research Institute, RAI, the same from Italy, and VRT, the same here in Flanders. So with great support from Deutsche Welle, European Federation of Journalists, ECTA, MediaRoad, ECTA looking at some of the advertising markets, MediaRoad in Belgium, the NPO, and Uni, the Global Union, actually bringing together all these different sectors. We did it on the basis of 3 hubs, the Sandbox Hub, the Policy Hub, and the Network Hub. In a moment, I'm going to ask colleagues to come and talk you through some of the stuff we've done in the Policy and Sandbox Hubs. But I'll give you a bit more about the Network Hub. But these actually have all been really intertwined. And sometimes it's actually when you're working in something in a project like this, you're trying to remember which of the hubs you're actually working for and who's doing what. And actually, that's a great example of how we should be working, everything coming together with partnerships. So we brought over, the Network Hub looked at a network of stakeholders and really was looking at how do you bring people together who are working in these areas to share, to exchange information, to move work together. And what we've done has been a basis of pulling people together through a number of events. So these are events that have been held in the last 2 years, different communities, different emphases, actually working together from everything from robot journalism through to education and training, where we've launched a number of podcasts, looking through using 5G for media production and distribution. A huge range of different areas where you can bring those communities together. And we've actually, we've invited startups to come. It's not just the big players. Sometimes a lot of these conferences that happen, you just get the usual suspects, the normal people who stand up at every conference. But we've really looked hard at trying to broaden the number of people who participate. Also, we've looked at the MediaRoad Skill Bites podcasts. If we're actually, as the media industry is changing, it actually changes the professional journeys that people need to do. The skills, the way people need to go through recruitment, training, career paths change. It's not just enough to be a technical person. You need creative skills. All the edges are blurring. As Karen said it earlier, it changes, yes, what's got to be done in universities, but it also changes for us as the media industry, how we take people through their journeys. And we've done a number of interviews with people from different parts of the media industry, looking at actually what does this mean for them? What does it mean in practice? And this has been targeted partly at the HR and the training sectors, but they've been published on a monthly basis, and actually you can find them on your podcast platform of choice. But also we're looking at how we can sustain these going forward. We had a number of newsletters and mailing lists going together, but one thing that we'll be carrying on is the LinkedIn group. We've got 123 members there. These are people working in this sector. Let's keep this going. Let's build it. Let's make it grow. And actually, this is a great way that we can continue to work together. We'll be talking through some of the great opportunities that might be coming up through future funding models. And actually, this could be a great way of finding groups to work together in the future. So this is the Network Hub and what we'd been doing there. And so I'd now like to ask Luciano Morganti from imec to come and take us through what we've been doing in the Policy Hub. So Luciano.
Thank you, Judy, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for offering me these opportunities to present the results of the Policy Hub. Well, I don't have to say nothing more about MediaRoad. I think it's clear what the MediaRoad project was aimed at. The Policy Hub aim was specifically, and I should say is, because we hope that this will go on in the future, to contribute to the development of a long-term policy vision for the whole European media sector, and I would like to add, for a healthy European media sector. You will rarely hear this, but I want to start with something. Working with my colleagues, you saw that there was a huge list of, our network was quite huge. It has not only been very interesting professionally, but it has been fun. And I want to say this because a European project can be fun, and I think that fun should be the key words when we talk about multidisciplinarity. It's something that you can really enjoy doing that, and I hope that in the following part of our panel we will discuss this. Let me indulge 1 second on a note of personal and project satisfaction, because we started now 2 years ago trying to launch some messages, but the intervention of Director Abamonte, of Commissioner Gabriel today, and the MEP Eva Kaili, I think that we did something good, because there is a message that is passing, and you will see many commonalities between what I will present now and what has been already said by the previous speakers. Now, I will open this, the Policy Hub. Yes. So the Policy Hub, we had many different aims and tasks to do. We have been working on a quarterly newsletter. We have been working on ad hoc submissions. For example, we have been participating, it has been mentioned already, on the fake news debate that took place in the last couple of years. We did also a lot of presentations and workshops, including the European Parliament and the Commission. And all of this, you can find a trace. Everything is on our micro website. You have got a screenshot there. So please, all the documents, all the newsletter, all the blogs that we have been publishing and busy with, you can find them there. It went on automatically. But the most important things I think that we did that contributed to shape this common understanding of what is a healthy media sector comes from the 2 vision documents that we have been working on in the last 2 years. And I'm glad to tell you that just a few days ago, we released the 2nd vision document, which you can see. Slide, please. Thank you. You see, those are our 2 vision documents. The second one is bigger, not because it is more important, it is just because it is the newest one. It is just out. You can download it from the MediaRoad website. And the other one that we did exactly 1 year ago was titled The Future of Media Innovation. The one that we did now, it is titled The Future and Emerging Technologies for the Media Sector. And in the follow-up of my presentation, I'll give you more details about this. So, how do we come up with the idea of the topics? You understood already that the MediaRoad consortium was broad. So, the first thing that we did was brainstorming with our consortium partners, with our stakeholders and beyond, to identify topics that might be interesting. In both vision papers, you can find what are the challenges and opportunities for the media sector and what are policy recommendations that we came up with. Now, let me indulge a little bit on the first vision document. Thanks a lot. You have got the table of content on that side and some of the main recommendations. But what is important is that before coming up with some policy recommendation for that policy paper, we have been identifying a number of interconnected trends and challenges. Let me open a parenthesis. I apologize for the thickness of my slides, but you know that summarizing in one slide the work of 1+ years is not that easy. This is the bad news. The good news is that these presentations will be uploaded on our website. You can download the PowerPoint presentation, and you can have a look at it in notes view, because you will have the main highlights. So this should simplify your job if you want to go through the slides. In any case, I was referring to, for the first vision paper, to a number of trends and challenges. We identified 4 trends and challenges. The first one is the platformization of the European media sector and the connected need to guarantee diversity of content and competition in a platform-led digital future. The second trend and challenges is the pressure, it is a growing pressure on the media sectors to continually be able to address and adapt to emerging and disruptive technology. And this is also should start you focusing on the other vision paper about the future and emerging technology. The third challenge is rethinking traditional business model in the light of new business model. And the fourth challenges and trend was ensuring media accessibility and inclusiveness while improving media professional skills. After the identification of these trends and challenges, we came up with some policy recommendations that you can see listed there. We need an increasing funding for media research and innovation, which partly we had, because this, according to the speeches that we had today, but we are not satisfied with that, of course, because the increase is tiny in respect to what we think or we thought should have been done. We also indicated in our first vision policy paper that the role of media should be reflected in a dedicated media-specific goals in each strand of the multi-annual financial framework. But also that to facilitate the search, so to have more and diverse organization to apply for this, we should have a dedicated website or portal pages that gathers together all calls specific to the media sector. The second recommendation was that we need to create or set up a media innovation scheme to bridge the gaps between technological innovation, creativity, research and development, and European level. So we saw this when today we said that the technological side of media should be coupled up with the creation and with the content. Not easy, but this is what we think it should be done. As of today, a lot of things, or the majority of things, are evaluated in a strict technological point of view, from a strict technological point of view, and this undervalues the importance of innovation and innovation in content creation. So we should bring together technology creation. The third recommendation that we came up in our first vision paper was to create and develop a research and innovation European pole, a kind of European media lab, to attract creative talents and technological expertise, so to put them together. This is, I also think, a message that came through, because we heard several times today, we need to bring different kind of expertise in a multidisciplinary exercise. The fourth recommendation was to foster cooperation and collaboration between a variety of stakeholders by supporting networking systems at European level. The fifth recommendation was to ensure a level playing field for the media sectors. And then we said in our first vision paper that specific support should be brought to specifically to some categories of actors, like, for example, small and medium enterprises and startups. And this, of course, will depend on the support that small and medium enterprise and startups should receive according to the policy objectives. The sixth recommendation is to support and promote media services that are truly inclusive and accessible to all. So, independently of age and disabilities, and minorities should be also considered not only in terms of access, but in terms of production of content. And then, of course, the last recommendation was to enhance media literacy for end user and enhance professional skills. So to make sure that professional skills are adapted to the future challenges. Now, let me go to the second vision paper. And let me indulge a little bit on the second point there, so on the methodology. In the first vision paper, we have been extensively asking the opinion and some thoughts to the expert community in the media sector. In this second vision paper, we went a little bit beyond, and we went beyond experts, because we wanted to ask what they think, what they thought about these future and emerging technologies for the media sector, also to the public of non-expert, but everyday users. So our consultation, our online survey went beyond the expert. We, of course, had experts, a lot of expert interviews, but what was interesting was to go in this second vision paper to the experts that we interviewed, and you can find the list of experts that contributed to our second vision paper at the end of the document, and ask them, what is your opinion in light of what the average, the unaware average user, as I like to call him or her, is thinks about this technology. So let me now, and then of course we went through a broad consultation with the MediaRoad stakeholders and partners. So the 6 technologies that we identified are artificial intelligence, immersive technologies, blockchain, 5G, Internet of Things, and convergence. What are the main highlights? First of all of these technologies, they are expected to have a strong impact on the European Union media sector, all of them. Some of this impact will be bigger for companies, like, for example, the risk of monopolistic tendencies. Big companies, we mentioned a few of them during the first half of the morning, while not producing media content, are likely to be able to dominate a crucial point in terms of interface and infrastructure. There are risks for the end user, the third line, issues of being trapped in filter bubbles, issues of lack of transparency in how we create the algorithms that are behind platforms, and there is an even greater risk for privacy, because it might become more and more difficult for the end user to control their privacy. On top of this, there are some horizontal issues that I would like to point out to you. All these technological trends, all these 6 technological trends, they rely on data. But what is important is that they will all contribute to produce more and more data. So we are thinking about big data. We are taking care of big data in our academic thinking, in our political thinking, but we might be exposed to an even greater amount of data that we are expecting now. So it is not big data that we will be facing with, but it will be very big data. And there are implications for the media sector for this. All technological trends that you can see listed there, they are likely to make privacy more difficult to control for the citizens. In almost all 6 technological trends, the European Union seems to lag behind. In terms of companies, because European companies are suffering from the pressure of foreign companies, but also in terms of users and citizens. And I want to mention both of them because they seem to lack the skills and competencies necessary to take the best out of this. Furthermore, another horizontal issue is that regulation is in constant need of catching up. And this is not easy, but this is what the regulator should do, because innovations, technological innovation brings with it consequences, and the regulator should be able to foresee what are these consequences and to be able to regulate them. And then, something that has been already said in the previous panel, ethical aspects are important. And an ethical stream and an ethical consideration should be put in any stream of research that we have in front of us. Now, we have been discussing 6 technological trends. Let me give you some highlights from these different technologies. And let me tell you what we think in the vision paper is the impact for the media sector. First of all, there are some contradictory expectations about virtually all these 6 media future and emerging technologies. There is a vision of, and those are kind of dichotomies, good versus bad. 5G can be very good, 5G can be very bad. The same can be said for artificial intelligence and for all of them. There is a dichotomy between they are big opportunities, they are big threats. There is a dichotomy between who are they going to empower, the citizens or the companies. There is a dichotomy between who will get the best out of this, of the future development of these 6 technologies, the big or the small, the big companies or the small companies. There is a dichotomy between transparencies versus opacity in terms of what algorithm do we use, how do we access the data, how we take out the data from big platforms. And then there is another dichotomy between what I like to define critical versus aligned thinking. We have been already discussing this. You will see that there are a few more things that are written in this second vision paper, of course. What is sure, and that is acceleration of current trends, that all these 6 emerging technologies for the media sector can be seen as accelerators of existing trends. Digital divide, they can become an accelerator of this. Surveillance, they can become an accelerator of this, or they can be the subject of the accelerator, and polarization. Now, let me tell you a few things about what specific media impact what specific impacts these technologies might have on the media sector. Artificial intelligence. According to our experts, and the reflection that the experts have on the survey that we propose to them, is that concerning artificial intelligence can impact the entire value chain. If you want some example, it might impact the way that we personalize or personalization, content recommendations, automated content creation, content delivery optimization, and fact-checking, a topic that was also dealt with in the previous panel. Immersive technologies, they can open up new ways of storytelling with, for example, parallel or interactive storylines. And they can help us experience live events in a way that we never did so far. They can also enable innovations in educational content. Blockchain, it could easily support micropayments as a way to reduce advertising's hegemony in online content financing. But blockchain can also ensure a fair and smooth distribution of royalties between those that possess them, of course. 5G. You read that 5G might become the underlying social fabric of an entire full connected ecosystem, because that is the infrastructure, right? But 5G is also important because it might impact both media production and media distribution, Internet of Things. This is also a very interesting topic to discuss, because Internet of Things will contribute to the creation of even more data. So basically, objects will be able to inform themselves and transmit content among themselves. But this will create another effort to adapt for the media organization. Last but not least, convergence. We will have more content available on more devices and different devices, but most probably it will be more difficult for us to access relevant content. So it will be more difficult to discover content that is relevant for us. And of course, convergence will open a lot of opportunities for user-generated content. One last slide. What are the main policy recommendations for a positive impact on European society? First of all, it has been already underlined, we need a proper regulatory European framework and the appropriate funding measures for this. If we want that the potential of these new 6 technologies is tackled in the right way. And then there are some interventions that are needed. The first one is that we need to make sure that European citizens see their fundamental rights preserved. This was the ethical consideration done in the first panel. Second, we need to make sure that there are safeguards, or that safeguards are applied to platforms' activities. And then platforms should be held accountable on their responsibility in a way that is proportional to their capacity to influence public opinion. Because this is what we should take into consideration. This is also to consider the ethical implication. How big is your potential to influence public opinion? That big is the responsibility that you have on the stage. Behavior of big platforms should also be made more transparent with effective rules to protect public interest. Third, innovation in European media requires ensuring fair competition between small and big, but also ensuring that the benefits of this new technological trend spread does not only go in the advantages of the big companies. Fourth, it is an important objective is to promote quality of media and its content. Quality here is the end, and technology should be the means. We need policies that are able to ensure the flourishing of quality journalism, and this, we believe, will fight disinformation and fake news much better than any prohibition on fake news. Point number 5, last point, citizens need to be informed and made aware of what technological innovations are and how they will impact their life. Now, to conclude, there is not one single best way of intervention. And especially in a European context, which is a context of multi-level governance, with governance distributed at different stages, in different actors, at different places, we need to make sure that the intervention that we do are the right intervention for the level. At global European level, there should be a European intervention, but it might be then at regional and national level, we need an intervention both to foster innovation, but also to control innovation that is more likely to be suitable for the small scale. So we need a combination of various levels of action, which is not easy, but this is our main message. Thank you very much. Thank you. I should sit there, right?
Thank you, Luciano. So I would now like to introduce Sarah, who is going to come and talk to us about the Sandbox Hub.
So hello everyone, like Judy has mentioned, I would like to take you through the Sandbox Hub and what we have been doing these last couple of, well, 2 years, almost 2 years. So just to remember your minds, the first or the initial ambition of the Sandbox Hub was to build a network of 4 sandboxes that would replicate the model of VRT Sandbox or accelerator that we have at VRT, and that would enable startups to scale faster. In the meantime, we have a network of 18 members, if you count DPG Media now, our commercial partner. And you can see that we have quite some interesting names there. So both public broadcasters, some commercial players, and also some media accelerators. So that made us think, maybe we should broaden what the Sandbox is really doing, or was really doing at that point, and we could work on a new mission. Wait, sorry. Sorry? Oh. Okay. So, what is the new mission of Sandbox Hub 2.0? Well, we want to exchange technology strategies and innovation mechanisms, like we have doing before with VRT Sandbox, and we'll continue to do so. We want to set up collaborations between each other, both within the companies that are member, but also with the startups, so that they can scale faster, because that remains a priority. Now, instead of the VRT Sandbox model that we had, we were also thinking of working on different innovation models, because that's also interesting to share and learn from each other. So we also have the video snack bar model now, OpenVRT, and of course some other models of our members like accelerators d'idées from RTBF, Radio France, and France Télévisions. Now, just to remember, what is VRT Sandbox, and I think you have heard it a million times from me. This is the place where we introduce new ideas and technologies into the VRT media ecosystem by collaborating with startups and entrepreneurs. And we've been doing that for 4 years now. So the second model is the video snackbar model. This is where we support our web creatives, and we also introduce new ideas and technologies into the VRT media ecosystem, and we research next generation media workflows. It's also a place where we build an open community for all of the people who work on these topics. And on the pictures you can see different backpacks that are being used by internal ambassadors to see if they test to make new content, and if they work, then they go into the VRT rental system. So if you need more information on that, anytime. And then OpenVRT, which is also a new model that we will introduce. It's actually where we build a community of digital media talent. So we will bring the people together at different events. We create or curate a platform for the community, and we let them co-create with the makers. Now, I think you're all waiting on the first results of the Sandbox Hub, which started in January 2018. So first of all, the different toolkits, and you can see, like, both for VRT Sandbox, Video Snackbar, and OpenVRT, we have made a toolkit that might seem basic, but actually it's a document that has been sent to a lot of media companies, but also to a lot of other companies who are interested in these models. We have built or inspired 17 media companies to build either a sandbox or to do something similar. So with VRT Sandbox, we have these 18 members. And together, they have done a bit more than 100 projects. So that's very impressive. If you don't count the VRT Sandbox projects, which are at about 140. Although it was not the aim, we did inspire other companies to build sandboxes who are totally not media related. For example, Sport Vlaanderen, but also the Nationale Loterij. You can see a nice quote here. And we're also working and talking to 2 other companies in Belgium who just want to get our advice and see how they can set up a sandbox. And then, of course, the main goal of the Sandbox Hub has always been to let the startup scale. And you can see that already so fast we have, I think, 14 Sandbox collaborations between members. I'm very happy with this, so you can see it here. So, but there are also some other Sandbox Hub projects, like the accelerators d'idées that I just mentioned, or Kizwe, one of the Flemish startups who won the NPO Eurovision contest. We also had several events where we participated in. Rai, who is member of the Sandbox, not member of the Sandbox Hub, but who is part of the organizational team, organized 2 open innovation days where they really invited startups and started thinking on how they could collaborate with them, which also resulted in a few projects. And we also, with the Sandbox Hub, participated or co-organized a lot of events, so more than 20, both national and international, and 50 startups, or more than 50 startups were involved here. For them, it was very important to get leads, to be able to pitch what they are working on, and so on. Then, of course, we also want to exchange knowledge. So at a certain point, there was a radio van question at VRT, and a lot of the members gave their expertise and insights on what a new radio van might look like. We also have the Marconi project that needed some new partners, and there we introduced Radio France and Radio Canada to the Marconi team. And then, like I said, Video Snackbar is one of the next models that we are at this point starting to share with the members. There's already a small group of people like VRT, RTBF, and Red Bull that are working on it and are exchanging, and we have the first conversations with other members at this point. So again, you can see that there's a lot of interest, even outside of the media again as well. And a link to the Sandbox Hub is that we have a new Horizon 2020 project that will be starting in January, that will be also about building ecosystem and helping startups on deep tech, but more about that at a later stage. So, and because I think it's always better to let others speak than speak myself, I would like to ask 2 people to give a testimonial. So the first one is Egan from NPO.
Hello, thank you. My name is Econ Verhaar. I'm the manager of innovation at NPO. NPO is the Dutch public media organization that has a very diverse system itself. We have different broadcast organizations and one central organizations. And although they did some innovation and research and development themselves, we hardly could get it together. One of the things in participating in MediaRoad was to convince us that we had to organize innovation in a different way. And we looked at the examples of the MediaRoad partners, and in the beginning of this year we started a new innovation department. And the power of the MediaRoad and Sandbox Hub really accelerated the work that we're doing. We started in the beginning of this year. I had to organize a new department, a new organization, a new way of working, finding that with the media organizations. And now, half a year after we officially launched, we not only become a formal member of the MediaRoad in only February, but then also took the lessons from there and now are running 5 projects with different startups, including the international ones that Sarah showed. And where others have been working on this and trying to set this up, like the VRT did, and they paid their dues in organizing this and doing this, we were able to do it within half a year to come to a level that we're really happy and now do innovation with the media organizations, with startups, participate in European projects, and also learning new ways of working together, working innovations, how to share information, and that's been very valuable for us. The latest example that Sarah also showed was that we set up, since we're organizing for the coming year the Eurovision Song Contest, they set up an innovation challenge. And because of the Sandbox Hub, 19 different startups coming from the Sandbox Hub community participated in that. And like we saw, Kisway, one of the startups that came out of this organization, is now a finalist and being able to implement their ideas around the Eurovision Song Contest. So giving them access, giving them the exposure, and maybe even the possibility to work with 200 million end users. So we think that's a great opportunity for them and also a great opportunity for us. Thank you.
So the next one is Loic from RTBF.
Hi, I'm Loic. I'm a corporate innovation manager at RTBF. So we have a baseline to describe our innovation dynamic at RTBF is innovate to create sense and value. And we aim to do that by bridging the gap between storytellers and tech and digital solution providers. So to do that, we saw Sandbox Hub as a great opportunity to foster innovation for our local entrepreneurial ecosystem, and also to exchange with our peers about open innovation and entrepreneurship mechanism. And for example, next week we'll launch Accélérateur d'idées with Radio France and France Télévisions. It's an entrepreneurship program, but we also were able to start sandbox projects with international startups at RTBF, and we saw the Sandbox Hub as a great opportunity in the future to foster the media innovation ecosystem at an international level. So we want to continue to invest in this hub to continue the adventure with Sarah and the VRT. So we have fun in this network, so we want to continue to have fun.
Yes, having fun, that's also very important, but also having impact, and you've seen that we have been doing that these last years. So, well, 2019 is almost at its end, but what will the rest of the year bring us? We will, of course, continue to expand the network where we can, continue to map the impact as well, because each day, something new pops up that can be added. And we will continue to create growth opportunities. Like I said, the different events we are working on. You can see that there are some of the startups are here today. You can find them a bit further. Please go by, say hello, check out what they're doing. They will be very glad. But we also have some other events until the rest of the year. So we'll continue to work on other events for 2020 as well. And then last but not least, the sustainability. As you know, MediaRoad comes to an end at the end of October, but however, the Sandbox Hub proves to have impact, so that's why we decided that we will continue to work on it in a collaboration with RTBF, and that we are now hiring an extra person who will work on communication, or help out with the growth opportunities, impact mapping, and so on. So much more to come in 2020, so keep looking out for Sandbox Hub news. And then I would like to end with welcoming you at Media Fast Forward, which is our annual innovation event from VRT, which takes place on the 12th of December in The Hague in Brussels, and where we will talk about polarization. So you can find all of the information, all of the speakers on our website, and I would love to see you all there. So feel free to check it out. You can register now. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. So can I invite the rest of the panelists to come and join me on the platform, along with Sarah and Luciano. So Elena, Francesca and Wilfried. So I'm going to ask them a few questions first because I've got the microphone, so I can ask the first questions. And then afterwards I'll open the floor to any questions from you. I'm going to be cheeky, seeing we was a bit late coming back from coffee. I'm not going to finish at past, so we've got more than 6 minutes for the panel. But I'll try and keep us not too late for lunch. So, I'm going to start by asking this one to Elena. What have you learnt from the MediaRoad project and the other and other projects about innovation in the media sector? What's it meant for you and for your organisation?
Thank you, Judy. I wanted to echo the fact that we had a lot of fun, that my colleagues said, but I also have to say, representing independent producers at European level, that in my case specifically, it was a long path of explaining them what innovation could do for them, or what something that not all the time they were aware of. So if there was fun, there was also a moment of let's communicate innovation, cascade innovation to all of them at the national level, and what can be done for them. And that was done a lot also thanks to the work we did in synergy with our colleagues from VRT that explained us a lot of very important elements of the sandboxes. I started, I remember 2 years ago, wondering whether a sandbox was a box, Sarah, you remember? And then we ended up having very crucial conversation about what typology of innovative ecosystem we could set up, where you had big companies like broadcasters company, but also independent producers, the academic element, which was also crucial, and all the other stakeholders that might not be on the panel today, but that were very, very, important because they brought to the discussion a lot of elements. For us, I can tell you, representing mainly small and medium enterprises, it was a matter to understand how small and medium enterprises, which very often for us means one producer that is working in a company that has also to deal with innovation, is able to deal with the innovation aspect. How does that happen? We have also in CEPI big companies like MediaPro, that I'm sure you all know, and they have a fantastic innovation department at their site. And I personally and all our colleagues in CEPI have learned a lot, and we did learn a lot also during these networking activities that were created. But how do you really push a small and medium company to deal with the innovation aspect. Also financially wise, it's not always possible. So during the discussion we had in MediaPro, and particularly also in the Policy Hub, about the typology of funding that is today existing, we realized that the small and medium enterprises that, according to van der Leyen, account for 85% of European jobs. So I think this is an important element not to underestimate. These companies have to have some support to make sure that if they have one person working in a company, they have a chance to also get funding support. And this New Horizon Europe that has been explained also this morning, I think, and the digital program should look into this aspect, specifically for small and medium enterprises. I just wanted to make a small example, Judy, because I think it's important. When I started, I was not sure where specifically we could get the most out for small and medium enterprises in the production sector. At the moment, I can say that we have a very strong animation sector in Europe, and there is a lot that can be done for this sector in synergies also with, the ecosystem that, for instance, our colleagues from VRT are developing, because it's, the typology of business that can really compete with the foreign companies. And we have to make the most of it. If you think about animation, you would think about production, for instance, virtual reality for consumption, because the majority of us would imagine that animation should try to address an audience and help them to get the best out of the virtual reality experience. But instead, during this project, we learn much more than that. In the animation sector, virtual reality is also for production. So the producers can use virtual reality to make sure that they can create and facilitate their work every day when they are drawing. I remember going to a Cartoon Forum a couple of weeks ago, and they told me, 10 years ago, we were hiring, talents from Asia to help us with the drawing. Today, 10 years after, we have people that are helping us in the digital ecosystem, not drawing, of course, but with artificial intelligence that can be used to help the production sector.
Thank you. So Francesca, from the radio community, what have you benefited, and how's MediaRoad helped you? What have you learned?
So we've been involved quite a lot in this consortium, and we've been within the Network Hub. We have organized workshops at Radio Days Europe, both in Vienna and Lausanne. And for those who might not know, Radio Days is one of the most important annual radio conference in Europe, and gathered thousands of actors from the radio industry from across the globe. And we had these two, as we call it, special focus workshops. And we call it this way because they were specifically focusing on radio innovation, ranging from hybrid radio to 5G for broadcasting to artificial intelligence. All topics that we are seeing are very important for not just for us, but also for all the stakeholders that are part of the MediaRoad consortium. They've been very successful. And it was because of MediaRoad. It was MediaRoad enabling us to tackle this specific aspect, radio innovations in this way, in a dedicated forum on innovation in such an international context. And of course, it was extremely beneficial for us. It was extremely important for us, not just because it was well received, well perceived by our membership, but it was because we also managed to reach out externally to not just to the hundreds who came to the workshop, but also to the thousands who were coming to the radio days, who were attending the radio days. And so we managed to get, as also, I'm quoting Luciano in a different context, but to pass the message, to promote the MediaRoad project, and to get information about MediaRoad out. which I think was extremely important, not just for us, but for the entire consortium. We've been also collaborating on the side of the Policy Hub. We took part in the stakeholder consultation, had drafting the vision paper, and again, very important to be involved, to bring the radio perspective, because this policy vision paper is focusing on audiovisual, on social media, on radio, and from a policy viewpoint, for us, it's extremely important to bring our radio perspective, which is not necessarily always included in all debate. It's, I would say that all in all, of course, even with getting the inputs from the Sandbox Hub, from the Policy Hub, from the Network Hub, being part of this consortium, being part of this network, it's given all the possible positive outcomes and results, and it was extremely important for us.
Okay, thank you. Wilfried, one of the things that MediaRoad looked at wasn't just the partners, but also our broader community, and you've been one of our supporting organisations right from the beginning. Can you tell us a bit how MediaRoad has helped you at Deutsche Welle, and some of the things that you've had input in and learned from, etc.?
Yes, just for your context, I'm with Deutsche Welle, that's the German international public broadcaster, 30 languages that we are broadcasting, so that's also, I'm coming to this. But I think first and foremost, we are a supporting organization from scratch, because MediaRoad shares many values that we also associate with innovation, and that is, topics that have been mentioned today, being open to technology, but also being open to cooperation. So what we've done in the course of MediaRoad is, on the one hand, I think a good example of how Deutsche Welle, as one piece of that scaling puzzle that Dieter mentioned, and MediaRoad it is yet another puzzle within the bigger scope and scale of European media innovation, helped to contribute, and that was mainly also through the sandbox. And on the one hand, it proved to be kind of hard to replicate exactly the model that the VRT had developed, because we were a little different. We're a little different breed of an organization. So we thought, okay, let's do this, and we can set something up. Like the examples that we heard, within 1 month, but then eventually it just didn't happen, because we couldn't get that on the ground. We couldn't agree on who in what kind of technology startup we could use. But then again, planting the seed of cooperation with startups coming from MediaRoad, we were able to pull off a kind of an even bigger event last year. We have one big media conference each year, the Global Media Forum. That's really huge, talking of scale. I mean, that's 3,000 people and like 70 to 90 nations represented. And we did a startup competition there, and we did it also under the co-branding of MediaRoad, and that proved to be very successful, both in terms of the feedback from the users, because we gave them training on how to improve their workflows. We gave them first-hand insights in how we produce, and then there was the competition and the award, and the winner was a company from or a German-Indian startup and cooperation that won the competition. So as said, it helped us a lot, and it gave us also a platform to promote what we did in the meantime with our own kind of innovation effort, and I'm quite happy that already 2 of these projects that we are aware, and I checked this word, were instrumental in bringing forward. Were mentioned already. The one is the Eurovox that we'll see next door, and the other one is the social media observatory that we'll also see in this afternoon. So as I said, we are one of these players that are trying to scale things up, trying to enhance things, and MediaRoad helped us a lot with that.
Great, thank you. So moving on, I'd like to ask each of you in turn what you would think from what you've learnt over the last couple of years from MediaRoad and the other areas you've been looking at as a result. What are the key elements of a media ecosystem for innovation? What should we be learning? So should we start down at the far end?
Well, first of all, we did learn that multidisciplinarity is important. But I may always make the parallel with what has happened in our multicultural society. Not all of them, if none, became a truly intercultural society. So you can have different disciplines around the table, but if those disciplines do not communicate, then it's pointless. It's just for the sake of the project, for the sake to say there is multidisciplinarity. Now, I would like to stress a couple of things. How can we really introduce interdisciplinarity into innovation project? I think that the key here is to look at what I called before the unaware average user. The unaware average user is the user and the citizens at the same time. Innovation, purely coming from engineers, scientists, is pointless if they don't ask the user community, and policy innovation is pointless if they don't ask the citizens. So we should really ask more to bring interdisciplinarity into innovation project. We should really ask the opinions, and we should have a permanent confrontation and dialogue with these unaware average users. And then, as I already said, we should have schemes that allows us for innovation. And schemes is translated into opportunities, and this often translate into funding opportunities and access to that.
Thank you. Sarah, what have you found?
So I'll start with answering the first question, because it's important to understand my answer to the second one. So what have we learned, or what did I learn? First of all, that collaboration is key. It doesn't matter if you work inside your own company with ambassadors, or outside with entrepreneurs, or with other media companies, as long as you collaborate. And I think the Sandbox Hub really proves that. It has impact, it has an economical and a societal value, both local and international. The second one is, and I'm very happy that Wilfried, you just mentioned that, is that there is not one innovation mechanism. Different people who work on different projects within different companies just need different innovation mechanisms. So it's important to adapt. And then the last one is that live testings, and that's also what Dieter mentioned, are very important, because it's the only way you can fastly validate something, and then you get impact, and then innovation doesn't stay a buzzword. And then that brings me to the second question: what are the key elements for media innovation, or building an ecosystem of media innovation? And I have a few. An obvious one might be funding. However, we at VRT, we have learned that even if, for example, governmental funding falls out, you can still get funding through Google D&I, Horizon 2020, or by creating new insights, just like we have done at VRT Sandbox. So it's also a matter of being creative. The second one is a mindset in your organization. It's important to have a place and the time for people to innovate. And also a focus, because you can do a lot on innovation, but you need to focus on your strategy. And then you need mechanisms like, for example, VRT Sandbox that enable you to do live testings. And last but not least, I would say a cross-border network of engaged people who are willing to share, willing to exchange experiences, set up collaborations very fast, like, for example, around tech. And if you have all that, then I think you can really do things.
Thank you. Luciano obviously forgot something. So
something that is related to what you just said, but also to what Dieter said at the beginning in the previous panel. We need to be able to accept risk and failures, because of all the company, of all the projects that succeeded in the United States, for example, we can mention a few, but we don't know the history of all the other projects that went bad. So we need to be able, especially in Europe, and this means to sacrifice money and fundings, because it can be lost. We need to accept that. We need to be able to risk, and we need to be able to dare, especially if we want to put together content with technology. There is a risk factor. We need to take this into consideration and accept, even if it is, in the case of the Commission, public money, that some part of that can be spent, can be erased just for non-successful innovation projects.
Thank you. I know, coming from a research an R&D department, we've always said that if you're not failing a good part of the time, you're not trying hard enough. So Francesca, what would you say would be the key elements?
Well, I would like to echo what Sarah said. Collaboration is the key word here. What is good about a network like MediaRoad, for example, is that it would help, it would foster the cooperation and the collaboration among all these different stakeholders, and would help individual companies and broadcast, even small companies, would enable smaller entities and bigger entities to work together to understand the challenges, to focus on solution, to focus together on solution, and to act collectively to bring up the solution. And so in our sector, innovation is driven by lots of factors, but mainly necessity, and especially changing behaviors, changing expectation in audience and advertisers. And so those companies and those broadcasters who manage to innovate successfully and manage to overcome the challenges, were those who have understood the challenges and invested in offering solutions. And I think that the big strength from the side of the MediaRoad network, from the side of the MediaRoad consortium, is to bring the strength, to bring the collaboration among all the actors involved, small and big, to find a solution to build an effective media ecosystem for innovation.
Thank you. Wilfried.
Yeah, loads of things on my mind. I tried to be focused. I mean, some of the stuff this morning was said resonates with me. Also, what Sarah said. I mean, bridging content and technology is something I thought I had reserved for the tombstone on my graveyard. I mean, he tried. Huh? So, but this, in a way, this is the key. And I think what we learned during the lifespan of MediaRoad, through MediaRoad, but also through other things that happened in that time, is that we need to really completely change the narrative of the profession. In my case, that is journalism. And you could be sure when someone like 30 years ago took the decision to become a journalist, he definitely sucked at natural sciences and math at school. So that was a proper link that you can make. Maybe a bit generalized, but you could make that. For me, definitely. But this is no longer the case. We have technology all over the place throughout the media production and distribution chain. And everyone that's on the content side needs to understand this, but it's also vice versa. I love engineers. They're doing things, they're making stuff. They can do that much better than me, but again, vice versa. They need to understand what the content people need and what is necessary to not stay in one place, but be ambitious, be angry, and go beyond the state of the art. So this is then again a matter also of the mindset in the organization. You need time, you need creativity, and you need funding. Also funding not only from coming from the public, but within the budgets of each company. That's instrumental to get things forward. So as I said, we need to change the narrative. And then as for the funding instrument as part of that ecosystem, I think we saw what the users, in that case, the media industry, needs. And this is a particular model that focuses on media and media issues. The success of DNI, 138 million being paid out of Google's communication department, attracted far more from European media into R&D projects than we have seen in the 15 years that I'm doing this with different consortia throughout Europe. You could never go to Der Spiegel and ask them, okay, hey, are you interested in a technology innovative project? Because they had their business model, they're making good money, why should they? But now the pressure is on, and this particular funding focusing on media attracted all these players, and we could continue to do so, and maybe not necessarily with money coming from Google. Thank you.
Elena.
I think I like to remember what was mentioned this morning with this strategy of the blue ocean, I think strategy that really stayed in my mind, because adjustment is really needed all the way through. We personally found it in CEPI during these 2 years of project. But I think all the rest of colleagues also adjusted according to the different typologies of member state and associations in Europe that we find. I could definitely see a strong interest about sandboxes from Central and Eastern Europe, but that doesn't mean that all the time there are the means. So how can we help this side of Europe to become as innovative as the rest of Europe? So this is probably what I would bring back as well. It would be, okay, we are a very diverse Europe. How can we use innovation to the benefit of all, really? And in doing so, I certainly paid attention a lot to the young generation, particularly the young generation of producers. Very often when you think of young generation of producers, you imagine a 30 years old producers. But we, in the different festivals, are coming across also to a youngest generation that is more keen to experiment and start-uppers, and that they want to sell TV formats to new platforms. They are opening up to digital opportunities. How can we help those people? I know, for instance, we have a Creative Europe that is fantastic and address, the most successful producers, but I'm hoping that in the new Horizon Europe, perhaps more reflection is done also towards these very young start-uppers that are the young generation, and we have to integrate them. And that relates a lot also to another aspect, which is let's make the best for our talent in Europe in the first place. That was mentioned by the professor, and also Luciano mentioned it several times. We really realize there is a gap very often in digital skills between the people that are coming out of universities and the young people that have to go and work in the industries. We have faced this issue also in other European funded projects. It popped up also in MediaRoad, talking about what training can be useful. So all of this, together with what my colleagues said, I think it's also important. Remember the talent, education, and remember how to link it more to the industry to make the best of it.
Okay, thank you. I'm just very much aware of the time and that we are heading rapidly towards lunch. So I suggest if you have any questions, please come and talk to the panel members individually. I'm sure they will be happy to chat to you. They're now looking worried, I'm sure. I would just echo, it's been a great fun 2 years working on MediaRoad. It's been a really good time, actually. Innovation can be really exciting, and actually working together, the collaboration, it just lifts your eyes perhaps away from where you are normally looking, widens your horizons, and really helps you to look more and more at a greater range of things, and actually bring the innovation on much more, strengthens it, much more cutting edge. So let's continue it. MediaRoad may be coming to a formal conclusion, but certainly I think the collaborations and the innovations isn't. So thank you, everybody. Lunch now, I believe, is outside, so.
Thank you very much to all of our panelists.